Welcome to another edition of the Car, Sim and Race Driver Show with me, Hugh Hatrick, and my buddy in crime, Jonathan Sutherland.
Hello, Hugh. How's it going in Duns?
Very, very well indeed, and thanks for coming back on the show.
Oh, absolute pleasure.
We've got a great show tonight because it's our roundup of probably what we think is the best event of the year, which is Company Car in Action.
It certainly is. It's what we call our summer Christmas.
Yes.
Christmas is in the winter, and the summer Christmas is Company Car in Action down in Milbrook in Bedfordshire.
Yep, it's our summer Christmas and Boxing Day. In fact, I was recently on the Company Car in Action website, and they advertise on Facebook and different things, and I said you could comment on it. And I said, yep, I would like Company Car in Action 2019 to be my Groundhog Day. It was certainly, it was pretty good. We had lots of fun. So I thought we'll go for some of the cars that were there, what our favourites and the ones that we thought were not so good, and just really our overall experience of Company Car in Action, because it's evolved quite a bit over the last few years. We've been going for 16 years, and our viewers will probably want to know a bit more about it, because it may well be that some of them might turn up next year to have a go thanks to what we've been telling them about. So how should we start this, John, on this epic adventure that we do?
Well, I think we should just explain briefly, I suppose, what it is. It's an event down at Milbrook Proving Ground in Bedfordshire, where a lot of the manufacturers get together to offer their cars, the latest models, or maybe not the latest models, to fleet managers, rental companies around the country. And it allows drivers the people who choose the cars, to drive lots of different cars in one day. So it's quite exciting. Lots of manufacturers go down there. And basically, you sign away for a car, and you take it around an alpine route, which is probably 2 or 3 miles of twisting turns. And then you get to take it for 2 laps around a 2-mile ring, which is a high-speed bowl, they call it. And then you bring the car back. It takes about 20 minutes to test drive each car, maybe a little bit less if you're going a bit quicker over the hill route there, Hugh. But that's how it works, really. And yeah, we go along, obviously, with the car dealer advisor business that Hugh has, who advises leasing companies or private individuals on fleets. So it's a great opportunity for us to go down there and try cars out.
Yeah.
And we're quite enthusiastic drivers, so we quite like to push the cars a little bit on the hill routes and see what they can do on the high-speed bowl.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Every year we have a fantastic time. And it's been interesting because as the car industry has changed so much, you know, there's been a lot more kind of use of green technology. We've had more electric cars coming out. And, you know, Company Car has kind of adjusted to that. I remember one year it was called the Greener Company Car in Action, but that only lasted a year because I think people weren't phenomenally interested in that. And there were an awful lot of electric cars sitting there.
It just seemed like a little bit of sort of greenwash, didn't it, really?
Yeah, it wasn't, you know, because
it wasn't really greener. I mean, and I think after the VW scandal, where they basically rigged all the emissions, and they changed in emission standards last year, they can't really say that anymore because all the car companies have basically been cheating.
And the thing was, that year that you had all the green, you know, the greener cars or whatever, Jaguar brought all their V8s and their supercharged everything.
Was that the year that they brought virtually every car had over 500 brake horsepower?
Yeah, it was amazing. And so it was quite a thing. So it's basically, if you're in fleet, if you're involved, if any of our listeners or viewers are involved in fleet that you're UK based, it really is an amazing event to go to. And it's normally on in the middle of June, around about the 12th, 13th of June every year. And last year was a first because last week was a first because it was wet. Quite a bit of the time it was very wet. Although I have to say there was no floods or anything like that. It wasn't really bad. And thankfully, because it wasn't too cold, then it kind of worked fairly well. And it was busy in the morning, but it seemed to be quieter in the afternoon, which meant that we were able to really enjoy ourselves quite a bit and get access to cars that maybe we would have struggled to do beforehand. Oh, I think we're going to have to quickly pause it. I can hear the door banging. Give me 2 seconds, John. There we are. We're back after a slight glitch. We've got everything all sorted out. But yeah, we were talking about how Company Car has adjusted its kind of themes over the years, with kind of greener themes kind of coming and going. But now we've got lots of electric cars. Now we drove some. We drove the Twizy, didn't we? I think that's probably one of the most fun electric cars that were there on last week.
We certainly did. I think it's the only electric car that I drove, actually, was the Twizy. But you could take it out and go around the city route at Milbrook, which I hadn't been around before. It does involve going across the high-speed handling track, though. And if you turn off slightly too early, then you can go the wrong way around the high-speed handling track, where professional racing drivers are going around at probably 80 or 90 miles an hour sideways, the other direction. So probably not where you want to be in a Twizy, to be honest with you.
It's going to be like a ball and a cricket bat, basically, kind of like coming together and hitting off in one direction.
And then just the graphic comes down saying, game over.
Yeah, exactly. You are dead.
But that was the only electric car that I drove, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. There may be a couple of hybrids we drove. The Toyota Corolla, didn't we? Which was kind of okay. But and the Honda CR-V, that was a hybrid too. So
yeah. I drove the Range Rover Sport. You know, that was brilliant. That was great fun. I could have driven that home. I really wanted that car. I also drove the Jaguar I-Pace.
Yes.
And I was impressed with that, although I had a bit of a slow run.
Last year, 400 brake horsepower. It's so fast.
Yeah, and it was actually a lovely car to sit in as well. I actually felt the quality of everything was really, really good. It was a really nice car. I'd be interested to see if the new Jaguar XJ is anything like that. You know, because that's going to be electric, possibly. I think so.
Is that going to have hybrid and full electric? Is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so I quite like the current one. Some amazing deals on the car.
They really need a good XJ now, though, because I've not. Or you say you like it. I've never got the current model. It just doesn't look right. The way that the rear pillars, the way the color changes, and it just looks odd.
It's very. I think it's the style. It will grow on you. I think over years, I think that will be a classic.
No.
Put all your money into that, John. You know.
Oh yeah, you do that. Yeah, you invest in it then. Yeah, you lead the way there.
And I'll put all my money into that. Yeah, I'll be fine.
That's right. Yeah, you got a nice the MCV. That's right.
Yeah, I'm sure that one will be in demand in a few years' time. But
it will be. Well, I tell you what, the economy was good on the way down to Milbrook, getting 70 to the gallon.
Yeah, that was kind of unbelievable, actually. And no backache at the end of it. We were all absolutely fine. And we drove for hours and hours last week when we were doing that, because it was quite a trip. But let's talk about some of the manufacturers that we thought could have been there, and we were kind of a little bit surprised that they weren't there, because there were a few gaps this year that I've never seen before, to be honest. Of Citroën and Peugeot DS, they normally have a massive stand, and they've been there for countless years. In fact, I don't remember them ever not being there. So they weren't there. I don't know why when I spoke to people from Borough Media, they had said, well, considering the climate, that wasn't too bad to get 21 manufacturers there. But I don't know. I mean, were you a bit disappointed that those...
I was very surprised, yeah. I mean, because they are a manufacturer with a slightly sort of sketchy dealer group, I think, Peugeot, Citroën, and you don't often get to try the sort of DS7s and the DS5s because the dealers don't have those in stock generally. So it's a really good event to be able to drive all the kind of odd, slightly rarer cars that these manufacturers have. And with Peugeot, I think the 208, which has just been launched, and the 508 are really good-looking cars. Yeah. And you think that fleet has got to be a big part of their market. So I don't know why they didn't turn up. Also, Nissan and Mazda, I think, could have come along. Because in the end, we were talking a couple of times that actually there weren't that many cars left for us to drive. Because there weren't that many manufacturers. And the ones that did come had brought all the cars that were really the same. So Toyota brought along maybe 10 Corollas. Renault brought along
all those Kadjars
or Captures. And once you've driven them, you're not going to drive the diesel, the petrol automatic, the diesel automatic. Maybe some people do, but if you just want to get in cars, there wasn't really enough variety, I don't think.
Yeah. And I mean, things like, as you say, like Nissan wasn't there. Skoda, they weren't. They've not been. I think I've only seen them once or twice, to be fair.
VW Group don't often go, do they? Seat with it.
From Seat. But I don't think Seat were as good as they were in previous years. They weren't as friendly as the last time, and they were normally quite.
I'd agree with that. And also, the Toyota stand last year was, I think, much better. They had a bigger display there. They had the sim racing guys there, so there was a bit of interest. This time it was maybe a little bit low key, a little bit.
Yeah. I think if anyone's listening here from Bauer Media who run Company Car in Action, I think they're really going to try and get more manufacturers and get a bit more glitz to it, a bit more kind of thing. Because there were lots of good aspects of it, and we really want to promote it because we love the event. I mean, it's a fantastic event. We wouldn't have done it for 16 years if we didn't think it was worthwhile. But it needs a bit more kind of pizzazz to it, I think, to kind of keep things going, because the car market is hugely exciting. I mean, there's really a car for everybody out there. I mean, I drove the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, which was a phenomenal machine, and it was brilliant. Although I think that should have been proper drives, because the people who accompanied you barely allowed you to go over 40 miles an hour. Apart from when you got into the oval, which they did allow you to go on a little bit more, but it was a little bit controlled, and needed to kind of trust people to kind of get on with it and have a bit more fun, I think. But that was a lovely car, along with the Stelvio Quadrifoglio and that lovely red and black. It was a stunning looking car. So actually, I think, to be fair, I think the Fiat Alfa Romeo stand, FCA Group, they did well for the cars that they brought. I wouldn't maybe say their admin side was particularly competent.
No, I think, as you said, the cars they brought were great, because again, you don't often get a chance to drive a range of Stelvios or Giulias, because again, probably Fiat's, Alfa Romeo, their dealer networks, they're just not as sharp as sort of BMW, Mercedes, and other dealerships, shall we say. So actually getting a test drive can be quite difficult. So to have all the cars there was great. All the Jeep, a lot of the Fiats and the Alfa Romeos were all there. But as you said, the admin was just non-existent, really. There seemed to be one rather stressed out lady trying to organise everything, but not maybe doing the best job in the world. They got the cars out anyway. Lots of people were driving them. It's a very popular stand, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. And there were two big surprises on that stand, and two cars, because you're not really a Fiat fan, to be fair. I think you can be quite honest, or Jeep fan. But when you drove the Jeep Renegade, and then also the Fiat 500X, you were, as like myself, very surprised at how they have been completely revamped. Because certainly I found that the old cars were quite heavy to drive, and they weren't that nice. I mean, okay, they were the turbo diesel automatics. I think they were the 4-wheel drive versions. But the ones that they had there, I think, were 1-litre turbo Fireflies, I think they were.
Yeah, that's right.
And they were totally transformed. I mean, they were actually really good fun to drive. They were they
were not out of their depth on the hill route at all. You could really hustle them around there. I think previous models, you had the stability control cutting in early. They felt a bit skittish. The steering was quite light. But I was really impressed by the 500X and the Renegade. It seemed to be that in the midlife facelifts that they've had, they've really improved the cars dramatically. And I compare that to the, I think it was the Kadjar that I drove, which I was really, really disappointed in. It felt like the first version of the 500X. It was kind of, steering was light, had no feel. The car just wasn't that well resolved. And the Fiats were much, much better. And the Alfa Romeo as well, the Giulia and the Stelvio, cars that I drove last year, I wasn't massively impressed by. I kept getting using the gear lever to change, put the indicators on, things like that. It all looked a bit badly designed. But this year they did seem better for some reason. They just seemed sharper and better resolved.
Yeah, and now they felt like cars you could just simply jump in and drive fast in them. They're just quite, they are quite fun. They're not complicated, and the steering lock is so short that you can it's like a go-kart. I mean, they're just phenomenal around the corners. It's just great fun. You come back with a massive smile on your face.
Oh, definitely.
When you park it all up. But I'm trying to think. Now we drove some very good Fords as well, didn't we? We drove the Ford Focus, the Fiesta ST.
And we went around that. We took that around together, didn't we? That's right.
Yeah,
you really enjoyed that, and from the passenger seat, it felt really planted. Like it was really sitting nicely. It turned in nicely. The ride was good. The seats are fantastic. Yeah, I was very impressed by that.
Yeah, I could have driven that again actually, because we didn't have a particularly great run in that. But even from what we did have, it was really nice. It could be pushed an awful lot more. And there's some good deals over £2,000 off. Some of them I've noticed some dealers stock in the country, so there's some quite good deals on them. And I think again residuals will probably be quite solid on those cars. Yeah. Because there's a big, there's still, even the old versions are still going for quite strong money. So I imagine the new versions, if you get them on a new one for like 18, that's a pretty good deal. I don't see that kind of, losing a whole lot of money over the next 4 or 5 years.
No, definitely not.
They're a really good little car. Yeah, so no, that is quite a thing. And I'm trying to think what else. We could have a rundown of what you thought was some of the best cars over there. The Land Rover Jaguar stand was quite impressive. They had the new XE, which I thought drove really well, lovely.
Yeah, that drove very nicely. I'll give it that. I drove the XF, which has had an update, the Sport Brake version, and that drove very nicely. Again, just lacking a bit of pizzazz. Again, they had a smaller stand with them this time. They didn't have quite such a big area where you can get teas and coffees and things. It was all much smaller. And I don't know. I don't know. I'm quite familiar with the Range Rover lineup now, and they're all phenomenally good. But there was nothing there that particularly sparkled for me. And a lot of the new interiors have got these twin screen touch screens, and they're just too complicated. I mean, maybe if you own the car, you get used to them. But if you were putting it on a rental fleet or had a sort of pool of cars, you wouldn't want them because they're just too complicated. I mean, I'm pretty good with that kind of thing. And even I was struggling a bit to sort of turn the volumes up and put the seat heaters on and find the navigation, change the radio stations. It was just too complicated.
And you really had to stop, to be fair, and you don't have much time at that, when you get the car, so you really kind of want to get out and get it all sorted. I did say, though, that Range Rover Sport that they had in the kind of grey and blue with the kind of dark alloys was stunning. That was a hybrid, and the petrol sounded amazing. And it had obviously all this extra power, something like 400 horsepower that thing had combined. And yet it's supposed to be quite good on fuel. And if you take it on the motorway, because it combines everything, it's supposed to sit at very, very low emissions. Yeah. And I thought I could have driven that car home. That was one of my favourite cars.
Oh, you like that? Well, my favourite of the day was the new Mercedes G-Class, the G350.
G-Wagon thing, wasn't it?
I just loved it. It had that real gangster feel about it. And it's got a brand new interior with the twin TFT screens on it. But it's quite functional as well. You've got the proper control wheel to get through your menus. But you just feel amazing in it. Yeah. Just standing there, you've got see the indicators on the top of the bonnet. And you do feel like you're kind of a bit of on a drugs run somewhere in London.
Yeah, a bit of a gangster car, I think.
A total gangster car, but I really liked it. That was a favourite. I drove a Porsche 718.
All right.
But I had it. They were all accompanied rides, and they wouldn't let you go over maybe 45, which is just, what's the point? I don't know why Porsche bothered coming. If no one let you drive the cars over 45 miles an hour, and basically have a procession of cars behind you as you cause a mobile chicane going around the hill route, then why bother bringing the cars? There's no point in testing out a car unless you actually can stretch its legs a bit, because what happens is that the cars go around very slowly around the hill route and it bunches up, and it can cause frustration, can't it, Hugh? And people do some quite peculiar things sometimes when they get frustrated. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I think you had a kind of bird's eye view of that, didn't you, of what happened?
Yeah, the hat-trick goes postal.
Pretty much. Well, we were stuck behind about 3 cars, weren't we? There was a Porsche, there was I think a Renault Zoe, and there was a Volvo police car, the kind of Volvo police V90 that they had there, which is always quite fun. And really, I thought, if I don't get past these people early on, I'm going to be really struggling. And they were really crawling along. So I ended up undertaking them at the first bit before the first Marshall point, which is now if anyone from Bar Media is watching this, will probably never be allowed back. But they were literally doing 30 miles an hour. And it does say in the video you're allowed to overtake slow-moving vehicles or test vehicles. And in effect, it was a test vehicle. And it was going slowly. So I would say it was only fair to try and get on with it. And what I didn't realise, of course, or I forgot, was that on the left-hand side of the road is all the bumps, the kind of that test your suspension. And then alongside that is a kind of yump that there's been a bit of tarmac put in for the kind of off-road track that kind of headed off up to the left. So I had to go over all of that in order to get past this Porsche. And we managed to get past it, but I think, what did it look like from behind there, John?
It looked quite dramatic, Hugh. I was following you as you came up, and clearly they were going extremely slowly. Yeah. And I think I would have passed too, but I didn't know if I could get through. But you obviously decided maybe you could. I mean, they were doing no more than 30, and I don't even think you went much over 55 to get past them, which is the limit. But they were all in the outside lane, and it's 3 lanes at that point, so it's perfectly safe to pass. And I just saw the back end of the Jeep Renegade squat down, and I thought, after it's got red mist, and over the little sort of boom boom where this is there to test suspension. I guess the car was okay.
Yeah, no, it
But
was fine.
it's where they put that bit of sort of fillet of tarmac in off to
Yeah,
the off-road route or wherever it's going, just to obviously to reduce the kind of gradient for cars
yeah,
joining it.
yeah.
Then obviously you hit it and you're fairly committed at that point. And yeah, the Renegade sort of leapt up on two wheels, maybe, and then sort of landed again a Porsche 911. And I guess you just get your foot in the whole
Yeah,
time.
that's what I
And
did.
you just appeared in front of the Porsche 911. And I was laughing my head off. I was just crying laughing. And I came round, and the first marshal's point, the guy was just looking like he was having an episode on drugs. He was just dancing around. I didn't know he was in shock at what he'd seen or something, but it was absolutely hilarious. And although I was stuck behind the Porsche at maybe 25 to 30 miles an hour, I just laughed the whole way around in that Jeep Renegade because it was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
I know it kind of felt strange having all that space after I'd overtaken them all, and then I sort of thought, maybe that was a bit more than I expected.
Yeah, but if you backed out halfway through, that might have been more dangerous.
No, that's true. Yeah, but
They were obviously outside lane because they were letting you through, I guess. So yeah, and you got through. You didn't hold anybody up at all.
And then there was on that very same run, somebody in a Toyota, was it an HRV or something? You know, the kind of the blue one. It was a kind of the hybrid. It looks a bit kind of space age.
Oh yeah, the HRT or whatever.
HRT, yeah. They stopped.
Sorry.
Yeah, they stopped out on the circuit for no apparent reason, going down the steepest gradient, going down the hill around the blind bend before the kind of last kind of yump kind of thing. They stopped round the blind bend, and then eventually they got going again, and then they stopped over the yump at the next bend. But they kept enough to the left that I was able to go through on the right, because it does say that if vehicles stop, you need to get past them, and you should never get out of your car. You should just drive past something that's stopped. And there were no red flags. So I thought,
you should point out in that video, this sort of safety briefing video, that if you do have a technical problem, get off the road. I mean, don't park across the two lanes in the middle, which that person in that car had done. That's through behind you in the other Renegade a little bit later. And yeah, you just couldn't get through at all. And I also think in the video, they should make the point that really, if you're going to go out on the Alpine route, the hill route, then you need to be prepared to drive the car briskly. I mean, no one needs to be driving, like Lewis Hamilton, but you need to push the car. You're meant to be out there to see how it handles, if it brake, what the acceleration's like, how it takes the corners. And if you're going to drive around at 20 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour, there's no point. And it actually gets dangerous because there's a lot of blind hills there as you go over the route, and it just causes traffic jams. So you come over the blind hill, and there's normally a Porsche. I think, again, Bar Media should talk to Porsche and ask them to keep going, tell their drivers to keep going at least 50 or 60 miles or 50, 55 miles an hour around that route. Otherwise, don't drive. Then maybe the professional drivers should drive them, because they're causing sort of tailbacks. And it actually was coming to a stop on several occasions. I stopped on the hill route.
It's crazy, absolutely crazy.
It's nuts.
And that is completely avoidable. If people actually go on at a sensible rate, there wouldn't be any issues with that at all. So no, I think they do need to kind of look at that and say, you need to get that. They just need to get on. They're being not even trying to be too safe. I genuinely think some of the people in some of the stands, like some of the staff, they weren't competent. If they were coming with you to accompany you in a drive, they should really know a bit more about the car, and they should know how it drives. They understand if there is a sports car, people have a right to get on. That's why they're coming there. They want to be able to drive it and not to go. It's not like you're driving it at Morrison's car park. You're actually kind of get on. This is a proper road. It's a one-way road, so there's nothing coming the other way. So really, it's pretty safe. You should have there should be no issue with being able to travel at 55 mile an hour and pretty much maintaining that throughout the areas that you're allowed to do that.
Absolutely. I think what we should do is we should volunteer to be sort of like marshal cars, and we should drive around at the speed that we think we should be going at. And if we come across someone slow, they should be red flagged. We should flash them or ask the marshals to pull them aside and ask them, are you comfortable with the car? Have you driven a car before? Just double check their license. Maybe they're on drugs, or they had too much to eat for lunch or something. They weren't feeling very well. But if you like that, you should be out there. Just pull into the side and let people push the cars. Because people get frustrated. And one or two people were probably going a little bit too fast to try and get past people or get ahead. And it's all caused by frustration by generally the Porsches. Ironically.
Yeah. Or they have to have an overtaking point at certain parts of the circuit so you can legally get past without any issue. So if someone's quicker behind you, you need to pull over and let them get through. You know, so
Yeah, exactly. Or just say, yeah, overtaking is allowed.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
get past wherever you can. I mean,
yeah. No, that's it. Well, I think
and just have a rule to give people enough space, and also tell people if there's a car behind you, then just signal left or something, or let them pass on the right hand side, or just have some rule like that. If a car's behind you, if they flash their lights, then you're obligated to let them pass on the right, something like that. Otherwise, it's pointless. There's so many cars at trade that I can't feed back to the customers at Car Dealer Advisor how it drives because they didn't go over 20 miles an hour stuck behind a Porsche Panamera Turbo.
Maybe they could get like marshals from Italy, from like Monza, like, you know, people who are kind of used to getting on, and they could have a bit of a, you know, so they've got a yellow and a red flag. They could have a blue flag, which is like speed up or kind of like, you know, get out the way kind of like thing, faster traffic coming through. Or they could have like digital boards that they have in Formula One, so you just drive past and it flashes blue if you need to get out the way, and be aware of what's going on.
Definitely. Or the owners of Milbrook could relinquish control for a couple of days and let Italians run the whole thing. That would be better, wouldn't it? And then you'd be cracking on. There wouldn't be all the health and safety nonsense. You wouldn't have to sign every morning and afternoon. You had to re-sign at BMW for the insurance paperwork and print out your endorsements on your license every morning and afternoon. It was ludicrous. I didn't bother driving any BMWs after the first day because there was just too much paperwork involved.
Yeah, and they need to use those zappers, like the WASP system, to zap your badge and then zap the machine, and it does it automatically. That was
some of them had that though. Some of them were using that.
Although it wasn't the same, because one year they all had them, and it was all the same group, you see, and then at the end of it, they could tell you what cars you had driven. They sent you an email, and that was really useful because you say, "Oh, I've driven all of this," so it gave you a kind of detailed map of what you had done. And I think that's really what they should be doing. I think there's quite a lot of areas, as good as it is, and I wouldn't put down the good points because there are a lot of good points, but I do think they need to do a lot more on the tech side to make it to bring it up to date, and really trying to do a bit more to make sure the manufacturers are all there, because really they're missing out. And you know, there were a lot of people there driving, and after the second day we were kind of thinking, well, you know, we come for 2 days because we've come a long way. We need to be able to drive some decent cars here. And we were beginning to get a little bit thin on the ground, you know, as to what to drive. We did drive and drove some of the Hondas, the Honda Civic, and then also the new CRV. I think it was CRV.
Yeah, which is very good.
CRV was all right, actually. It was competent, reasonable. I wouldn't say it stunned me in any way.
No, the Honda guys are trying to say it would be a better choice than the BMW 5 Series. I'm not entirely sure about that. I think I'd probably just stick with 520D rather than get a Honda CRV. But yeah,
I drove the Honda Civic, and the Civic, it was a Civic diesel, 1.6 diesel. I think it was an AC or an SR or something. And I have to say, I wasn't massively impressed with it. I mean, really? it was competent, but it didn't. The engine was quite noisy. It looked nice. I do like the way it's very sleek and all these kind of angles and things on it. But I can't say it shouted out at me, you know. And it's very expensive. I mean, everyone's like 20 grand plus, and you think that's quite a lot of money for that kind of car. Is it worth it? You know, you could have so many. I mean, you could have 2 Tipos for that. You know.
I didn't drive the Tipo actually, should have, because it's had a bit of a revamp, hasn't it?
Yeah,
a screen that's a little bit bigger than my iWatch, so you can actually see what you're sort of doing when you're driving along on this tiny little screen they had in the previous generations.
Well, we had a hire car one last year, a Tipo, just the 1.4 petrol without the turbo on it. But it was a 6-speed box, and obviously being a hire car, I'd done a bit of miles, and this was in France, so it was knackered. You know, it had certainly been pushed to the limit. But actually, the economy was amazing out of that. It was really clean running, and it was actually quite nippy. But they're doing a deal at the moment. You can get a brand new Tipo 1.4 S, I think it is, or some kind of S, some version that they've got. It's got black wheels, but this kind of standard interior. And it's 11 grand, brand new.
And that's list price.
That's a pre-reg deal. I think it's about 5 grand.
Pre-reg deal, right? I was going to say that is incredibly cheap. I mean, that's not. I remember back in the day, the Fiat Tipo Action 3 doors were 7,995 or something.
Yeah, it was in 94, 95.
Not much more than that, and that's 25 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and the Tipo is a much better car than the Tipo was in 1994. So. I mean, where's inflation? It's gone. The manufacturers, they're so good. I mean, they really are. I know we criticize them a bit, but actually the progress that's been made is astonishing.
Yeah, and that'd be a great
apart from with the new Renault Clio, which was on display, and I honestly couldn't tell the difference between that and the old one. It was absolutely identical. The interior was a bit better.
From the outside it looks identical. The inside
It is identical. Better. Why would you change your car? It looked exactly the same.
I think they're trying to do the BMW thing, isn't it, where they don't age much, so they try and keep things relatively similar to make it work. But it was you can see that the interior was shared with the Nissan Micra. But I thought the interior quality was far better than anything.
It was, but that was an initial version. That's top end, had leather on it, stitched leather and stuff, and had features.
To be fair, that's probably the main criticism of the current Renault Clio is its interior is pretty cheap. But it does work, and they run really well, and it's a very popular car. And I have to say with you, although I could drive a Kadjar, it was all right. I thought the automatic one I had, the actual petrol with 160 horsepower was a lot more sprightly. It felt a lot better. It felt a lot lighter in terms of, I think the diesel's a wee bit heavy at the front. But the Kadjar one I drove, it was the 160 automatic. It was okay. It's a funny car, the Kadjar, because you kind of look at it and you think, in some angles it's all right, and in other angles you think, no, it's a bit dull.
It's dull. It's awful.
But it's sold a lot.
But it's Motability, isn't it? It's Motability.
And people who
they're all on Motability. There's no one actually chooses it. You just get given it.
Wouldn't put private money into one of those unless
you wouldn't.
50% off.
Unless you weren't quite right. Exactly. I mean, you might, maybe rental fleets and Motability. That's surely where all those cars go. I can't imagine any private buyer buying that car.
But the other big shock is, I know we quite often talk about Dacia, and I know a lot of our guys here. This is the car sim and race driver show, so Dacia doesn't really fall into it. But they are cheap, and if you need
it is a car.
Yeah, it is a car, sir. I do think they didn't bring any. They should have had Dacia there because
they should have done
market for them. They're very good on leasing and on just their standard finance deals. They're virtually giving them away. And I know that's why I bought a Dacia. I bought a Logan. It's because I drove one, a company car. So it makes us pretty much legit. We've done a deal for them. So
you're going legit. There you go. Yeah, I was very impressed by your Logan on the way down. And funny enough, all these sort of technological features that the cars have, it always puts me off them. As long as it's got decent cruise control and Bluetooth and CarPlay, it's fine.
Yeah. Because it actually handles pretty well. It's really not bad around the bends.
Yeah. It's why on the advice that I gave to your customers when you did your last podcast was just keep the car you got, which is probably why you chucked me off it.
Yeah, that's why I haven't had back on video.
I've been allowed back on, but yeah.
Yeah, so you kept saying, when are you going to do the next one? And I was saying, well, I'm quite busy.
Exactly. It's the Keep the Car You Got show from cardinadvisor.co. Yeah, really not right. Yeah.
Oh, it's been funny. But actually, that reminded me of another car that was rather good. It was the Kia Proceed. Now, did you end up driving that?
I only drove the Ceed, which I thought was very good. It had a really noisy engine, but it was
well put together.
Drove very well and went very well.
Yeah, well, the Proceed was brilliant. It was an automatic, but it was 200 horsepower, 1.6, and it's kind of looks like an estate, but it's very kind of curvy at the back, and I really liked it actually. And it had the paddle shift, which was so quick, and really, it really felt well planted, and actually a really good car for the money. And there's some good discount on them as well. You can find a few around. It's worth haggling because I think you're getting a really good car for the money.
Yeah.
Though that was the most impressive Kia by a long way that I've driven. It was kind of like the old Ceed GTI, which was actually a really good car. It was kind of almost soft, but at the same time it handled well. They had this kind of amazing ride quality for a car that was a GTI, and yet it wasn't harsh riding at all, and yet it handled brilliantly, and it was nippy. It was a really really good engine in that.
Yeah, I didn't have a go in that one, but you said it was good, and the ordinary Ceed did drive very well. I think I drove a diesel. It was quite a rattly diesel, but it was handling. It was neat. It was really really good. Yeah, very 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 good. Yeah.
And I also had a passenger run in the Stinger, a top of the range Stinger.
Okay, right.
The driver who was he actually nearly lost it on the handling track. We nearly spun right off. Kind of wet. And but it was quite a good car. I mean, it was quite predictable and except obviously in the wet when it was
well, that's useful in the borders. Yeah.
I think maybe he had turned a lot of the traction and other things. Probably.
I think so. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But,
no, there's lots of good cars there. I thought the Mercedes stand was the best organised. I thought all their cars were terrific.
Yeah, they were very good staff as well. Very good staff.
Very very nice. Well organised. Not too much admin. And they also had the simulator there, so people could have a go driving a Mercedes F1 car around Silverstone. And how did you get on with that, Hugh?
I won.
Hey, congratulations.
20.6 round Silverstone, which was fantastic. And so I'm going to go to Brooklands. They phoned me up on Monday saying that it'll be a day out at Brooklands at the Mercedes-Benz World to drive on-road and off-road, and I think to get a tour of the museum, I think, as well. So
fantastic.
They're sending the stuff to me. So yeah, there'll be a special car and sim and race driver show edition of that when I get to go on that, hopefully later on in the year sometime. So that'll be pretty good.
That would be fantastic. And we met some celebrities there as well, or a celebrity. Yes, on the BMW stand.
Yes, yeah. That was one that you spotted, of course, none other than Abby Eaton. So we went over and we had a chat with her. And of course, to people who don't know who Abby Eaton is, she is basically the female Stig from the Grand Tour. Of course, the Stig was retained by Top Gear, but they brought out a new one under the Grand Tour, and Abby Eaton is the driver. So we had a lovely chat with her. And she's agreed to do a podcast with me. So in the next week or two, hopefully we will get that sorted out, and we'll be bringing that to all our viewers. So it's going to be very exciting. I can't wait to do that, actually. That's going to be really good. I've got so many questions I could ask. I want to know all about the Ebola drone. I want to know where it is. I want to know how much they film it all in advance. She probably can't tell you any of these things due to secrecy or confidentiality clause in the contract, but it would be great to see how much information you can get out of her. But I agree, she was absolutely lovely. And just one of the professional drivers there on behalf of BMW. Yeah, I think what you need to do is send me all your questions, and I'll see what I can do. And that's to all our viewers too. If you've got any particular questions for Abby Eaton, I'll do my best to pick the best ones and to ask her, because that should be really quite a good interview to do.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. And you can email us at podcast@cardealadvisor.co.uk with any of your questions or comments. And we'll do our best to ignore them. So that's what we normally do. I check it every day. But yeah, so no, it's been. I mean, overall, company car action. It takes you about a week to kind of come down from that, because it's just such a good day, and you have so much fun. And afterwards you eat Chinese food and all sorts of things. It's just like a boys' kind of weekend away, really, isn't it? It's that kind of thing, but with cars.
It is good. And I know we criticise it, but actually it is a really good event. I think we get a bit frustrated because it could just be quite a lot better with just a few changes. But really, it's a fundamentally brilliant opportunity to drive all those cars and meet the fleet guys from all the manufacturers, and just see what the latest tech is out there on the market.
You did have some ideas. I know we discussed about what you thought would make it even more amazing, and there were talks of jacuzzis and all sorts of other.
That was a private conversation.
Well, I'll just let the minds of our viewers wonder at what we could have possibly have been talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Involved, but it was
whatever it takes to get a sale.
Yeah, what would you do for a discount? But it was, so we had lots of fun imagining if we were in charge. But I'm sure that Barra Media will not take into account anything that we have said, for good reason and probably for legal reasons too.
Yeah, they probably know what they're doing, actually.
Yes, they have done it for many years. And in all fairness, it is a huge task to be able to run such an event. And we do give them credit. Because we've been going for 16 years and we hope to be going for many more. And a lot of people come year in, year out, because it is the best event in the year for driving all these different cars in one place. I'll try and put some pictures up as well on the videos and things like that as to what kind of cars we had, so that people can see a little kind of variety of what we were driving over the last week there. But I think that pretty much rounds it up.
I think so, yeah. I think it gives your listeners a good idea of what we got up to down there.
Yeah, absolutely. And soon to come are our car stories, because I've been working on a book and it's almost there, and we're just updating some of the last stories, and they are all phenomenal. They are all crazy, and you ain't heard nothing yet. I cannot wait to start doing our videos just about our stories. They're not exaggerated, well, not really. They are all based on true stories. And potentially, hopefully, we will get these car videos that we did over 25 years ago. That's what we must get sorted.
That would be hilarious.
We've got to find our Top Gear videos that we did when we were about 18. I'm sure the viewers will absolutely. They'll be mega hits on YouTube.
I think so. I don't know how good they are, though. That's the thing. I mean, it's going to be interesting to look back on them, Because
Yeah,
I think we were both a bit thinner. I had a lot more hair, and it would be very, very interesting to find them. But hopefully they'll come back, and we will find them. Yeah, that would be excellent.
Yeah, no, that would be the thing. Well, that rounds it up for this week's edition of the Car Sim and Race Driver Show with me, Hugh Hattrick, and my very special guest, Jonathan Sutherland. Bye just now.